baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. Again, thank you for tuning in tonight. Really do appreciate your support. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Fresh start. We're going to start it over. We're talking about the Braves and the Mets tonight because earlier this week the Braves were able to catch the Mets in the division standings. Of course, losing that tie last night because the Mets played a doubleheader against the Pirates. Won both games. The Braves are now sitting at half a game back. But again, much better than 3, which they were only a week ago. They have been rising steadily over the past few months, since about June. At one point, they were 10.5 games back on June 1st. And, this goes to show that you can never count the Braves out. You can never do that. And since June 1st, the Braves have had the best record in baseball, 63-24 to be exact. It's important to realize, though, that the Mets are not falling apart. This is not a collapse of the Mets like we saw last year and so many times before. This is a very good Mets team, a very, very good Mets team. One that would not have been easily beatable had the Braves not had this, back half surge. But they have. The Mets are 50-34 since June 2nd. Credit to them. They have had to battle through losing their ace, Jacob deGrom, for more than half the season, and now Scherzer going on the 15-day IL. They've had to hold on to that lead battling many injuries. Carlos Carrasco recently was injured. Starling Marte, day-to-day now. That has to be discussed. That has to be mentioned. But I've said this all year long. This is not, last year's Mets. This is, again, a very good team. And look, they still could completely fall apart, but for the majority of this season, they have been a very, very good baseball team. The biggest difference between this year's Mets and last year's Mets is the head-to-head matchups. The Mets absolutely dominated the Braves in head-to-head matchups earlier on in the year. And even up until August, the first series in August that the Braves had against the Mets, they took 4 out of 5 games. So that, again, head-to-head matchups have been critical. The difference now is that a week after that series I just mentioned, the Braves battled right back. They got 3 out of 4 against the Mets, and they made this, again, competitive in the division. And when they were 3 games back only a week ago, I remember talking to you guys. I had guys in the chat telling me, hey, Tyler, look, we're good with a wild card. This, it's pretty much ending because, what did you hear after the Mets series? What did you hear after the Braves got done facing the Mets? You heard, well, the Mets have a very easy September. We're going to get to that. A lot of Mets fans that, tuned into my video said that, well, yeah, but the Mets have an easy schedule. It's going to be an easy back half. It very well may be. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But let's talk first about the Braves in August because this was, I thought, the hardest month of the year for the Braves. But it sure doesn't look like it. Again, they finished August with an 18-10 record, which I thought was very good because I think this is a very good I think this is a very underrated schedule. And what I mean by that, it is way harder than what the Braves are going to get credit for. Not only do they have to face the Mets a week apart, from one another in those series, but they also have 2 doubleheaders on back-to-back weeks. And yes, I know that they're not facing a ton of great teams. I'm more aware that outside the Mets and the Astros, the quality of these teams is not exactly premier. But number one, the Braves still have to win the easy games, and easy games add up. Number two, I think this was really the first time we saw the Braves play like a complete team. Now, that doesn't mean they haven't had their moments. That doesn't mean they haven't played good baseball. They have all year. But this was the first time that we have seen them play complete. A lot of credit can be given to the trade deadline. Robbie Grossman has been a great addition. The young players, Vaughn Grissom, Michael Harris. I mean, we can talk all day about those guys. But the Braves were starting to play well. But again, August is just 1 month. Keep in mind, they had the best record since June 1st. Just for perspective for a second, Michael Harris debuted on May 28th, 4 days prior to June 1st. Spencer Strider joined the starting rotation on May 30th, only 2 days prior to June 1st. And if you don't think the young guys have and continue to make an impact, you're blind. If you don't think that Mets fans have felt the Braves breathing down their neck in the divisions, you're mistaken. But that's August. We know what happened in August for the Braves. Now we're in September, and September's been very good to the Atlanta Braves. But what's going to happen in the future? Let's take a look. So this is the month of September for the Atlanta Braves. And again, so far it's been very, very good to them. Undefeated through September. Granted, it hasn't been the most challenging teams, but that is about to change. Tomorrow, they start a series with Seattle, who, by the way, had the longest playout drought in professional sports in all of North America. They have a chance this year. You got to think they're motivated. That's 3 games, but then they have a 3-game series with the Giants, who have not been as good as they were last year. That would be very hard for them to do, but they, again, are a team that can beat you. They're winnable games, no doubt, but they are a team that can beat you. But then we have what I think is the most important stretch in this entire season right here. These 2-3 weeks that I think is the most important stretch. I told you a couple of months ago I thought this would be the most important stretch. I had this highlighted on the calendar all year long because this is a chance for the Braves to really make a big impact in the standings. And what I mean by that is this. Earlier in the year, I would have told you that, well, this is when the Braves are going to catch the Mets. This is when the Braves are really going to make a drive to catch up to the Mets in the division because, earlier in the year they had a 10.5 game lead. It was a different perspective. Now, the Braves have already caught the Mets. And I know they're a half game back, but they've caught the Mets. That being said, this is their last chance right here, this couple of week stretch, for them to get ready for that series with the Mets in Atlanta. This is a chance for them to either add on to their lead if they're leading, again, take the lead again, or a chance to extend their lead, whatever the case may be. This is their last chance to bolster whatever they're going to have going into the series with the Mets in Atlanta. This is it. Now, the series with the Mets that flows into October there, that ends in September and flows into October, that's obviously the most important series going forward. No doubt about it. You get swept there, could be detrimental to the season either way. If you lose that series, it could be detrimental to the season. Heck, the Braves may have to sweep that series. The Mets may have to sweep that series. Whatever the case may be, that series is the biggest series of the year for both teams. But this stretch I just showed you, this 2 to 3 week stretch I just showed you, the most important just couple of week stretch that you're going to have this year. There's been other moments, sure, we all know, but this is the most important stretch. Now, the good news for the Atlanta Braves is that they are playing their best baseball. The Mets are struggling to beat winnable teams. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that this trend is going to continue, but at the moment, it is shaping up well for Atlanta. Let's take a look at the Mets September. Not quite as friendly for the Mets in September. The Mets lost their series with the Nationals. They lost a game against the Pirates. That happens, guys. It's not exactly a collapse like so many other years before. This is not a collapse like the Mets have had. This is just baseball. It's tough. Down the stretch it gets tough. When you don't have depth, when you don't have, when people start getting hurt, it gets harder. And honestly, they do have a fairly easy month to cap off their season. September is friendly to the Mets going forward, but they still have to win these games. That being said, outside of the series with the Brewers and, of course, the series coming up between the Braves and the Mets, it's pretty easy. Of course, they face Miami twice. They have the Cubs. They have the Pirates again. They face Oakland again. And then, of course, eventually they head to Atlanta. It's not exactly a super tough way to end the regular season for the New York Mets. They could very well roll off a 10-game win streak or something similar, but they're going to have to do it without future Hall of Famer Max Scherzer, who will not be returning from the injured list until the series in Oakland. And if you're wondering, hey, is he's injured? Yes, Max Scherzer is currently injured. It's a left oblique strain. Scherzer described it as fatigue on his entire left side. Now, what this says to me, and I really want to focus on this, what this says to me is that the Mets are prioritizing later this year. They know the Braves have caught them. They don't want to push Scherzer when they're facing, I hate to say it, but easier teams. They know that series I just mentioned between the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves is critical to their year. They're going to want Scherzer to be ready. And I can't help but look back at last year with Scherzer because I don't know if you guys remember, but I was actually at this game. Game 1 of the NLCS. Scherzer was the probable pitcher. He was the guy that was lined up to pitch, but he pitched against the Giants in the NLDS. He closed out the game. The Dodgers overused Max Scherzer, and he felt it. He couldn't pitch game 1. To tell you the truth, I don't think we saw his best when he eventually did pitch against the Braves, but they don't want to make the same mistake. When I say they, the New York Mets do not want to make the same mistake with Max Scherzer. He was 37 last year. He's 38 this year. Guys, I hate to say it, but, he's not the guy he used to be. Now, he's a great pitcher, make no mistake about it, but we've seen this happen before. The Mets are smart about doing this. This is a very smart move by them. You have to delegate when this guy needs to pitch. And, if he's a guaranteed win, when do you want to win those games? They're looking at the future. If he's showing any sign of fatigue, they're going to rest him. And, credit to them. It's a smart move by Buck Showalter, by their front office. That is a very smart move by them, in my opinion, based on what we saw last year with Scherzer. But that being said, what does that mean for the weeks to come for the New York Mets? I look at September, and without Scherzer, outside of, Jacob deGrom, I start questioning a little bit because, look, it seems like an easy schedule, but you still have to win these games. And outside of Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, their starting rotation is as follows: Chris Bassett, Carlos Carrasco, Taijuan Walker, and David Peterson. So, real quick, you have to expect deGrom to come out and win his games. Obviously, he's probably the best pitcher in baseball for the past 4 or 5 years. But, outside of him, the Mets rotation is solid, no doubt. But again, without deGrom this year, what we've seen this year, it's probably a little bit unsettling for Mets fans knowing that, well, now Scherzer could potentially be unreliable down the stretch. And I look at the Braves, and the Braves don't have that problem, right? Look at their pitching. I think Fried, this guy on the screen, Kyle Wright, Spencer Strider are probably your big three guys going into the postseason this year. In any postseason series, I'm lining up Gamer, Max Fried, outstanding pitcher this year in Kyle Wright, and rookie standout Spencer Strider. Those are the three guys I'm going with. But then I look beyond that. Morton, Odorizzi, sure, their numbers don't jump off the page this year, but they provide that back end of the rotation support that any great team needs. The Braves have that. Beyond that, I look at the minor leagues. Ian Anderson, proven postseason contender, Ian Anderson, by the way. Kyle Muller, probably the best minor league pitcher of the year. Bryce Elder, who's been suitable in the big leagues. And maybe even Mike Soroka. I look at all of those options. That's the important word. The Braves have options. I don't think the Mets have that, and it's really starting to show itself. The Mets are starting to fall apart a little bit. I mentioned Starlin Marte earlier. Broken finger, out day to day. Taijuan Walker was hurt a few weeks ago. Carlos Carrasco hurt a few weeks ago. Jacob deGrom hurt for the majority of the year. Now it's Max Scherzer. It's one after the other. For the Braves, they don't really have that problem. For one, nobody's really falling apart right now, outside of the guys who have been on the injured list pretty much all year. Ozzy Albies is making his way back soon. Mike Soroka is talking about making a comeback here. The Braves are doing the opposite. And I look at that and I say, well, the Braves have more depth. Think about it. If the Mets lost Starling Marte for the rest of the year, that is a drastic loss for them. And sure, if we lost Austin Riley or Matt Olson, that would be drastic because we don't have anybody to fill those spots. Not really. But if we lost a superstar in the outfield, if we have more options to go to in general. So I think you have to consider that a factor. But again, I really think that the depth is the biggest difference in these two teams. And it's because of the way they were created. The Mets have bought most of these guys. They never really went through a big rebuild. They had some bad years, sure, but they never went through that rebuild. They never had that. The Braves went through the rebuild. That's why they have so many of these young guys. That's where it comes from. It comes from growing within, planting these guys within, and looking ahead. Now, again, I mentioned Ozzy Albies. He's coming back soon. That's a given. We know that. But what happens when he eventually does? I think it's actually going to complete the lineup. And in fact, I made a lineup. This is not perfect. This is just a template I wanted you guys to look at for a second. This is what I think happens when Ozzy Albies comes back. Ronald Acuna, right field. Dansby Swanson, shortstop. Austin Riley, third base. Matt Olson, first base. Darno Contreras, split time at catcher. This is regular season, by the way. Ozzy Albies at second base. Michael Harris, center field. Marcelo Ozuna, DH. I'm flexible on that. Vaughn Grissom in left field. I've mentioned that a time or two. I still think that's the case. He's already practicing in left field. I mentioned that before I ever knew he had any left field experience. He doesn't, but they're practicing him in left field in pregame. I think they're going to try to make that move. But with Vaughn Grissom, it's not just left field. There's many options that you can do. You can space this guy out because with Vaughn Grissom, specifically Vaughn Grissom, look, he's a proven shortstop. He can give Dansby a day off. Now he's a proven second baseman. He can play that position. Give Ozzy a day off. He could probably play third if you wanted to give Riley a day off. Left field is an option. Right field is an option with Acuna's struggles. There's plenty of ways to be able to use Vaughn Grissom, not just in left field. But if you want him to play every day in one position, left field would be your primary option. But again, there are so many different options for Vaughn Grissom. And it's not just Vaughn Grissom that you have to find time for at the plate. Look at the guys on the bench. You're talking about Eddie Rosario, who postseason standout, obviously. You're talking about Guillermo Heredia, Robbie Grossman, who's just been great since we got him at the deadline. I'm going to look up, probably going to do a feature on him at some point coming up on Robbie Grossman and look at his stats since becoming a Brave. A-Ray Adrianza. I mean, there's guys that, of course, guys that we got to find time for. And Vaughn Grissom is just one of those guys. But yeah, very exciting for the Braves. And look, you may have a different lineup. This is just a template. In my opinion, you have to find somewhere for Vaughn Grissom. The guy's hitting out of his mind. But the order of this, I know a lot of people get, real specific about the order of the lineup. That's an afterthought for me. I want to find everybody a spot to play. I want as many at-bats for these guys that are hitting as possible. That brings me to this next guy, Marcelo Ozuna. Now, we've done an exceptional amount of conversation about Marcelo Ozuna for obvious reasons. We have talked about him up and down. We've given all the theories out there about how, he could be traded. The Braves may void the contract. We've talked about everything when it comes to Marcelo Ozuna. Marcelo Ozuna is probably raising some eyebrows right now because he has been playing more, number one. Number two, it seems like sitting on the bench finally made him realize he's got to make some changes in his swing. The Braves can win without him. I think that has been realized. I think the changes have at least been attempted to be made, which is a big step. Because if he can pop off, it looks like the Braves are going to keep this guy at least for the remainder of the year. We don't know what happens beyond this year. But for right now, it looks like he's a member of this team and he's a member of this ball club. So that is what it is. But I look at that lineup and I look at that catcher spot. You have a guy there named Travis d'Arnaud and William Contreras. If Marcelo Ozuna does not hit, these past few games have been fun. Granted, they've been against the A's, but it's been fun to watch. It's good to see him making some adjustments. But if he gets to a point late in the season or even into the postseason where he's not hitting, I look at that catcher spot and I find my DH there. And it's nothing new. It's what you've seen all year. But you let the guy who caught every game of the postseason last year, Travis d'Arnaud, do the same thing and put Contreras at DH. And, if d'Arnaud needs a rest, you could put Contreras behind the dish, no problem. But that's how I think it would work. It's all kind of depending on what Marcelo Ozuna does for the remainder of the year. Either way, guys, this is a very good problem for the Braves to have. This is a depth problem, but it's a good problem. Anytime you have too much depth, it is a good thing. Make no mistake about it. The Mets are running into those problems now. And, just to put a cap on the National League East division race just for today, I think this one is really going to come down to that last series between the Braves and the Mets. 3-game series, September 30th through October 2nd. It's going to be great television. I hope a lot of you guys will go to the ballpark. It's in Atlanta. But it has a lot of factors there. Remember, there is no game 163 this year. There is no tiebreaker game. The tiebreaker is from head-to-head matchups. So let's just say the Braves and Mets wound up tying some form or fashion. They wound up tying. If that were to happen, it would go to head-to-head matchups. Currently, the Mets lead in that. The Braves would have to sweep that series to take the head-to-head matchup record and win the division if they were to tie. Hopefully, it doesn't get to that point. But look, if you sweep that series and you're the Braves, you probably win the division outright. But there's a lot to find out. There's a lot to see how the season is going to go. There's a lot more time left. I mean, look, I look at this month of September for the Braves, and I see many games that we can win. I see problems we could have. But I think this is a real chance for the Braves to not only win the division, but again, I think the Braves have a very good shot at making another run at the World Series. But they got to get to the postseason first. To do that, they have to go through the New York Mets. That is all I got today, guys. That is my monologue for the day. I know we have a super chat. You guys are active in the chat. I really do appreciate it. Before I get into your questions, though, do me a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can keep up to date with everything going on here at On Deck, and of course with the Atlanta Braves. Guys, we're going to have postseason coverage coming up. odds are the Braves are going to make it to the postseason in some form or fashion. We're going to be there for it. We're probably going to cover as much postseason content as we can, not only from the Braves, but from all teams. So if you have a baseball fan out there that's a friend of yours that's not a Braves fan, send them the link. We're going to be covering everybody. Let them know that we are doing that. And of course, let Braves fans know that we are here. We are covering as much Braves baseball content as we can. I've been trying to get as much to you as I can. A lot going on. But, we're here. And I'm excited to talk about it. The Braves, again, first place. First time all year I can say that. And it's very exciting to be able to say that once again. Chris Kaysen super chats. He says, Tyler, thank you for being here for us in Braves country and fans of the game. Just wanting to send some funds as way of appreciation. Man, I appreciate that. I really do. It really does help out the channel. I don't want to disclose too much just yet, but we are making big moves here in a few weeks and doing some things and really developing this channel. And every penny counts, and it all goes to the same fund. So I really appreciate that, Chris, and I appreciate all you guys being active tonight. Guys, follow Chris's example. Super chats get you priority. It's just the only way I can really narrow it down. So if you want your question answered first, of course, super chats are the way to go. I'm going to be here until about 7, maybe 7:15. Then I'm going to wrap it up. I know NFL comes on tonight. Frankly, I have to go out and watch it with some friends of mine tonight. So I'm going to get out of here around that time. But make sure you get as many. I'm going to answer as many of these as I can. So thank you, Chris Kaysen, and thank all you guys for tuning in. Yasuki Knight says, we will see what happens for the rest of the season. Go Braves. Absolutely, man. Thank you for tuning in. Matthew Brittingham says, hey, Tyler, with Scherzer hitting the IL late in the season with fatigue, it's an oblique strain. That's the actual injury they came out with later after Scherzer described as pain. Now, 2 years now, do you think he is too old to make it through a full season? This is twice in a row now. Bad for a $43 million pitcher. Look, I'm never going to question how much a player makes. I am never going to question how much a player makes, okay? Mike Trout's $400 million. The $500 Juan Soto turned out. I don't care. I will never question how much a player gets paid. What I will question is the organization that decided to pay him that. And I question that move from the jump because I don't care who the pitcher is. I don't care if it's, Warren Spahn, any Hall of Famer you can think of. I don't care what pitcher it is. I don't care if it's Roger Clemens. No pitcher above the age of 40 is worth that much money. No pitcher nearing the age of 40 is worth that money. It just doesn't make a lot of common sense to me, personally. Now, look, you pay Jacob deGrom that, I understand. I get it. I completely understand it. I didn't understand Scherzer. Now, if there's one place that's going to do it, it's probably in the market size of New York. I get it. He's one of the game's greatest pitchers right now. I completely understand it. Future Hall of Famer, been great. Single-handedly probably carried the Nationals pitching staff to a World Series in 2019. Great pitcher. That being said, I never really understood that price tag. Never could get it. Never could wrap my head around it. I'm a guy that doesn't understand a lot of these. I don't understand a lot of these big deals. I didn't understand Bryce Harper getting paid as much as he did. And that's on the low end nowadays. So I don't understand the big term deals. Mainly probably because I look at what the Braves are doing, and they're probably the most intelligent front office in baseball when it comes to getting these guys to sign long-term, team-friendly deals, and they've been very good at that. And I see a lot of other organizations that don't have that ability or don't have that attraction to players to make them do that. And so far, I don't want to come out and say that he's too old because, look, other guys have done it far longer, but Scherzer's a different kind of pitcher. There's a video out there that describes him as a psychopath. I think that's probably right. But he's a maniac, and in a good way. He is a maniac in the sense of he is a competitor. He does not let, pain influence the way he pitches. He does not let distractions happen. Dude pitched with a huge black eye a few years ago. Great guy to have on your team. Absolutely. Team leader, I would say. But at the same time, age does catch up to you. So is it a bad look? Yeah. Do I necessarily think they're related? I don't know. I'm not the doctor. But what I do know is they have relied on him a lot this year, probably more than the Dodgers did, because I look at it this year and I see a team that lost Jacob deGrom for the majority of the season. And I look at that and I say, well, yeah, who are you going to rely on, right? You got to save your pen. You can't throw your pin out there every day. So I think the pressure is put on Scherzer himself. Now, and look, sometimes things just happen. That's the other flip side of that. Sometimes things just happen. So I don't want to say that necessarily, but I really think the Mets' priority here is the series they got coming up with us in the tail end of the season. And, of course, the postseason. They're looking ahead. They're not looking at right now when it comes to Max Scherzer. They have Jacob deGrom. He can share the load. They're hoping they can make it through and win the division, without Max Scherzer for the next couple of weeks. That's what they're hoping. We'll see if it happens. Matthew also says, is your gut feeling that Marcelo Ozuna will or will not be on the opening day roster next season? Is he almost as good as gone for 2023? Gut feeling, yes or no? If you had asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have probably told you I don't think he's going to be back based on what we were seeing, based on the way the organization was not playing him, and it didn't look good for Marcelo Ozuna continuing with the Atlanta Braves. My gut feeling right now is that he likely, if he's, I think it probably depends somewhat on his performance, but aside from that, the off the field issues have to stop. So it's hard for me to really say. My gut feeling would be that yes, he's probably going to return. And mainly, I look at that price tag. And I know a lot of people don't like saying, well, who cares, cut your losses. It's a lot easier to say when it's not your pocketbook, right? It's a lot easier to say that. So my gut feeling right now is that, yes, he'll probably be back. I don't think they're going to be able to void his contract. We did a whole video on that if you want to go watch it. To tell you the truth, this is probably the last time I'm going to mention it, unless they decide to cut their ties with him, because at this point, we're just beating a dead horse. But my gut feeling is that, yeah, he'll probably be back. And you know what? Who am I to say that he shouldn't be? But it is a little, it is kind of an odd situation. I will give you that. Lori Lee says, D-Row and Robert F. were talking on MLB Central about Mets fans were mad at them for saying the Mets collapsed. They did not say it, just simply that the Braves have been playing out of their mind after June 1st. Yeah, I get nasty comments all the time from Mets fans. I don't really care. My favorite follow on TikTok is Frank Fleming, okay? My favorite one, because every time the Mets lose, I go tune in pretty much the next morning. I go find what he did, because I almost played a clip of him today. I came really close. I let it go, but I thought about it. But it is almost entertaining, because Mets fans are so worried that it's going to happen that they talk about it more than we do. I don't look for the Mets to collapse. I look for the Braves to play well, like you just said, and like they're doing. The Mets fans have this worry because it happens so much to them. Think about all the talent they had, back in 2014, 2015. They had talent, and a lot of that talent went to the side and never really got anything for it. So it's for Mets fans, I understand it. It's any fan base that never. That almost gets there but never really does. It's any fan base like that. They haven't won since '86, guys. I mean, it's been a long time for the New York Mets. But I understand it. But at the same time, I'm telling you what I see. The Mets are a very good baseball team. Right now, I think the Braves are better. I think they've been better since June 1st. And I think they're, and I don't necessarily think it comes down to raw talent. I think the Mets have a better starting rotation in terms of peaks and valleys. If you eliminate Taijuan Walker out of that list. But I mean, think about it. You got Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer in your starting rotation. That sounds great. But, when a guy throws 101 miles an hour on a regular, he's probably not going to pitch the entire season. When you have a 38-year-old pitching for you, it's probably, going to cause problems at some point or another. So it causes a lot of issues. And the Mets have been able to circumvent a lot of those. Buck Showalter is the best thing that ever happened to the Mets right now. It really is. Because he has been able to take what he has, make the most out of it, and really avoid the problems that the Mets have. So that is something to keep in mind. But yeah, the Mets have not collapsed. I will not sit here and tell you that they have collapsed, because simply they have not. They are a very good team. They're just not as good as the Braves right now. Now, that could change in a week. The Mets could, win 5 straight. The Braves could lose 5 straight. And, we're back to square one. But it is what it is. The Mets lost a 10.5 game lead, and it's not because they didn't play well. It's because the Braves played exceptionally well all of a sudden. And, credit to the Braves. Credit to the Mets, too. But credit to the Braves for doing so. Again, guys, do me a favor. Like the video. It really does help the channel. It helps me grow, and I really would appreciate the support. It really does help. And if you're new, please subscribe to the channel. We are almost to 4,000 subscribers, and anytime I hit a milestone like that, it really makes my day. So I really would appreciate a follow, any of that. It does help me out a ton. And, of course, we appreciate any new followers we get. Elijah Smith says, I feel like there are more people talking about the Dodgers, Mets, and Braves as National League pennant winners. Am I crazy for thinking that the Cardinals are extremely dangerous? No. Like, I'm more scared of them than Los Angeles. Now, I'm going to be real with you. If I was in a postseason series, I would take the Cardinals. I would want to face the Cardinals over LA. I think LA is a little bit more of a complete team. I don't want to face, someone like... I don't want to face someone like the Cardinals and then go face the Dodgers. I think that's where they're dangerous. I don't think they would beat the Braves. Now granted that they're a sneaky team. They've been able to do a lot with what they have, and never underestimate what Adam Wainwright can do and what Yadier Molina can do, and obviously what Albert Pujols can do. They're dangerous, sure. I don't think they would beat the Braves. I don't think they're as good of a team. I don't think they're as full of a team this year as the Braves are. But I would, again, not want to face them prior to facing someone else. That's where I think they're really dangerous. In fact, I think they're the easiest route to get further into the postseason, more than likely. They're a much easier route than facing the Mets or the Braves or something like that. I don't really know. I plan to do a breakdown of the postseason bracket and really kind of see what the best option is currently. That may come out this week, but, don't hold me to it. We'll see. I really got to do some research of that to find out who I'm more afraid of. Like you said, you're more scared of the Cardinals than Los Angeles. I don't think you're crazy there. I get what you're saying completely, but I'm going to be honest with you, and most of it's probably because I replay that history in my mind when it comes to Los Angeles. But I'm a little bit more fearful of what the Braves would do against the Dodgers. I think they could beat the Dodgers. But I also think, well, they're still the Dodgers. They're better than they were last year, I think. And, the Braves are too. But it's still, difficult to really put that together. Chris Kaysen says, Los Angeles is the top dog. For sure, Cardinals are like the Mets to me. They've got hot recently, but they're not too scary. Yeah, I just don't think the Cardinals are that full of a team. They're a very good team. They have a couple young players that are exciting to watch. They have a lot of old players there that are exciting to watch of recent knowledge. But yeah, I think LA is still the top dog. I think the Braves are a top dog. The Mets are obviously really good. I wouldn't want to play the Mets in a 3-game wild card. Not if you're pitching DeGrom and Scherzer in Game 1 and Game 2. Wouldn't want to do that. I would want to face the Mets after they played that series, though. If they got, in the wild card series and we faced the Mets, we had a bye and they had to waste DeGrom and Scherzer, your pitching's not lined up, I would be pretty confident in that series. But, it's very theoretical until we know where everybody's going to land in the postseason. Mab says, Tyler, do you think Vaughn Grissom could finish top 3 in Rookie of the Year voting? It would be great if we had all of the top 3 rookies with Strider, Harris, and Grissom after everyone said we had no farm left. I don't think he'll finish top 3, mainly because he hasn't really played all that long. You got Bobby Witt Jr. Julio, he's American League. I guess, it's tough. I think it could happen. There's just a lot of good guys out there. I don't think they're ever going to give 3 guys on the Braves. I just don't think so. If it happens, great. But I'll be honest with you. I kind of spoke on this last time we were here. I don't really care about individual awards. And look, when we win them, I'm happy about it. When Ronald Acuna gets his Silver Slugger, when Matt Olson gets his Gold Glove, or whatever the case may be, I'm very happy about it. Michael Harris, I think, is going to be pretty much a expected Gold Glover every year. But that being said, I'm more concerned about the ring. I would much rather have a ring on a team than an MVP, right? That's how I am. I don't get too caught up in that. But Vaughn Grissom, what's important about Vaughn Grissom, from my perspective, and I look at it from a Braves perspective, is he has filled a hole that desperately needed to be filled for the Braves. He's been a guy that can consistently get on base at the bottom of the order, along with Michael Harris. Both of those guys have been great. But I don't think Vaughn Grissom is quite up to the level of Michael Harris. And to be honest with you, I said this last time, I think Spencer Strider is sort of leading the charge right now. And not just because of his 16 strikeout game, but what he's able to do. You give him 4 or 5 more starts, which he missed out on, he's probably leading the league in strikeouts. He's already leading the league in strikeouts per 9. So that guy's been absolutely filthy. But what he did the other night, when he struggled in the first inning, threw over 30 pitches, and then wound up, threw 30 pitches in the first inning and still pitched 6. I thought that was pretty impressive, especially out of a rookie. I thought that was phenomenal. And, a couple of the broadcasters said that was the most impressed they've been from him, even considering the 16 strikeout game he had before that game. But, yeah, I think those two guys are on a different level right now. Vaughn's been great, but they came up earlier. They have more time put in, and a lot of other rookies do too on other teams. So it's a little tough to necessarily say that. But good question. I mean, very good question. Chris Kaysen says, Taijuan Walker has been pitching terribly this last month and a half. Yeah, he has been terrible, I would say. He's been getting eaten up for sure. That's one pitcher. You can't necessarily take that to gauge the entire starting rotation. I don't think if I'm the Mets, I'm confident in Taijuan Walker in the postseason. I feel like he is their version of Jake Odorizzi before Jake Odorizzi figured things out in Atlanta. I think that's kind of where they're at with him, especially here lately. Now, he might lock in. I mean, look, other guys have done it. We've seen it on our teams before. So he may very well lock in. But right now, I wouldn't be confident in Taijuan Walker pitching to anybody, much less in a postseason. Chris Case, is his first NFL game of 2022. That is tonight. I will be watching it. It will be the Rams versus the Bills. I got to check on my fantasy prior to that. 7 p.m. is, of course, pregame that starts in 3 minutes, but you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay right here and watch this. I'm probably going to head out the door in about 15 minutes or so, so make sure to get your questions in. If you have a question that you really want me to answer, super chat it. That is the only way I can guarantee an answer. Sorry, but that's all I can really do. Matthew Botello, Ozuna connected on a few good balls this week. I hope he stays positive and hitting. I think he will. I want to say he's turned a corner, but again, you look at who he faced. It hasn't necessarily been the greatest, matchups. I mean, look, you had Colorado, you had the Marlins, and you had the A's. He's done well this week. I don't want to undersell that, but again, look who you're playing against. Let's keep it real. He hasn't had to do, I'm curious to see what he would do against the Mets. And if he does well against the Mets, if he does well against Seattle, I'm a little more optimistic in turning that corner. I'm just not there quite yet. It is encouraging, though. I want Ozuna to play well. If he is on the Atlanta Braves, I want them to play well, no matter what's going on outside of the field. But I got to see more consistent results. So we'll see. Chris Casey says Ozuna is driving the ball to the opposite field. He's heating up. Legit hitter at perfect timing. That's what I think's been missing. There's been a few things missing. Timing is one of them, but really the chase rate, and not taking your walks. Be patient. I think now looking at the lineup and how everybody can contribute, I think Ozuna has to realize he doesn't have to be this monster at the plate. He can just be a member of the team. And once he realizes that, I think driving the ball to the opposite field, not pulling it, being that hitter, I think it can really help. We have a super chat, so I'm going to get that guy. Matthew Botello says, enjoy football night with the boys. Thank you. Appreciate it, brother. I really do. I hopefully, your team, if you're rooting for a team out there, I hope you win. NFL, for me, is just a chance to make some money because my friends are dumb in fantasy. So that's where I go with that. I'm more of a college guy. Florida State had a great week 1, against against LSU. That was great for me, but outside of that, I stay pretty much tuned into baseball. But yeah, thank you for that, but Matthew, I really do appreciate it. Let me see. Cheese asks a good question. I love that name. I've said that before, but I absolutely love that name. I don't even know why. Guys, before I answer this question, though, do me a favor. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you know everything going on with the Atlanta Braves and you know what I'm saying about it. Make sure you like the video and subscribe. We got a lot of exciting things coming up on the channel, a lot of off-season content as well, but more importantly, we have postseason content coming. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to subscribe. All right, let's answer Cheese's questions. They want to know, when is Albies coming back? I believe he was 4 for 12 last time I checked. I'm going to say maybe 3 or 4 more games in Gwinnett, and then I think you may see him. They wanted, I think, to get a target around 30, and he's halfway there in 3 games, so I'm looking at 6, 7 games, and then I think he's probably going to come back. They really just want to make sure he's healthy and give him some time to get back in the swing of things. But, we'll see. We will see. Chris Kaysen says, the Braves have so many division titles and wildcard flags hanging at Truist Stadium, they almost win every single year. Yeah, Leo Mazzoni, I did that interview with him a few years ago. One of my favorite interviews. If you're new to the channel, I really suggest you go watch it. That's the one I always send people. If you like baseball, if you like Braves baseball, this is the interview for you. Leo Mazzoni spoke about it. He is more proud of those 14 straight division titles than he is of the one World Series. Because I don't think it'll ever, I think he's right, I don't think it'll ever be done again. And that's what the Braves have. That's what they're building right now, something similar, and hopefully it'll be the case. Jonathan Collins tunes in. He says, hey, Tyler, go Braves. Absolutely, brother. Thank you for super chatting. Thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate you. All right, let me get back where I was. Let's see. Chris Kaysen, let me see. Jameson Meza says, got to say that I love what I saw from Spencer Strider, able to adjust and adapt after that rough first inning. Yeah, I mean, that's the important thing. That's maturity, and it's not something you always see in a rookie. Even a rookie that's having a great year, you don't always see that maturity and the ability to get out of situations. And what's exciting to me about that is not just the fact that he can do it. It's the fact that we know he can do it. We're heading into a postseason. Guys, in the postseason, I don't care how good your stuff is. I don't care how good Spencer Strider is. There's going to be runners on base. There might be bases loaded. There might be 2 runners in scoring position. As a starting pitcher, you're going to have to get out of that in the postseason. It's on you, right? At that point, there's nothing anybody else can do for you if you're in the first inning with 2 runners on in scoring position. The fact that he was able to limit the damage and get out of that and then move forward and cover 6 innings, give the Braves length, very good to not only this year but the development of his future. I thought that was great. And, of course, the 16 strikeout game was great as well. Thanks for that. Jameson says, let's see. Bradford says, I'm not buying this Mets hype after their doubleheader wins. Their best 2 pitchers, they're supposed to win those games. Exactly. I'm more interested to see what their back-of-the-end rotation pitchers do. I completely agree with you. That's what I'm talking about. They're back into the rotation guys. Chris Bassett, Carlos Carrasco, Taijuan Walker. We just talked about Taijuan Walker. Not exactly the best, guy out there right now, at least not for the last month and a half. Beyond that, David Peterson. It's not exactly guys that, I would trust as just my rotation. So we'll see. You get into crunch time, a lot of crazy things happen, but I'm not buying it either. And without DeGrom, or without Scherzer, rather, I question it. And I think the Braves could really take advantage. That's the key here, is taking advantage. Let's see. Philip Nichols says, Mets don't have the depth that we do. Good, but unless we crumble somehow, the Braves take the division. That's my guns, and I'm sticking to them. Yeah, I think, that's a very, I think that's a good opinion to have. I don't think it's, how do I put this? I don't think you're radical for saying I think the Braves are going to win the division. They obviously have the momentum right now. It's not even close. Anywhere you tune in, I don't care if it's MLB Network, I don't care if it's ESPN, I don't care if it's On Deck with Tyler Redmond, whatever the case may be, wherever you tune in, everybody's going to tell you that the Braves had the momentum. How could you not? They're 63-24 since June. How do you not say the Braves had the momentum? They came back from a 10.5 game deficit. If I'm the Mets, I'm wondering how the heck did we not keep them at least to a 4-game deficit in the division? They weren't able to do that. The Braves have the momentum. And I'll tell you this. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. If the Braves somehow don't win the division this year, let's just put that out there. I don't want to put that negativity out there, but let's just put it out there. If that somehow happens, I think you see Alex Anthopoulos go after something big in the offseason. What that is, I don't know. I don't think it'll be a bat. I think it'll likely be a starting pitcher, to really put him over the edge and to make this team a contender, because it is a contender. And I think you start treating free agency like how we could, and I think, we really may go after something big. You may see, if they don't re-sign Dansby, you may see a Trey Turner or something like that. But I really think pitching would be the target there and not bullpen. I think it'd be a starter. But that's only if they don't. I still think the Braves win the division. Based on how tight this division race has been, I wouldn't be too surprised if the Braves did that anyway, had an aggressive offseason anyway. But they also have all these good young players, and I mean, there's a lot of pieces that the Braves have that they have the option to either use or trade away or whatever. They have so many different options, and it's because they raised them up from the bottom, and they have that control. They have the ability to control these players. That's what the Mets don't have. They don't have that ability. They're relying on a guy. All due respect to him, 38 years old now, and on the back leg of his career, and a guy who's out half the season with Jacob deGrom. Great pitchers, but they're relying on them very heavily. We're not relying on, and I mean this like all due respect to him, we're not relying on a guy like Charlie Morton, who was not only a World Series hero, was probably in our top 2 pitchers last year. He's not even in our best 3 right now. All due respect to him, right? We all know how good Charlie Morton is, but he hasn't been that guy this year. That could have been detrimental to a team like the Mets. The Braves have been able to bring guys up like Spencer Strider. They brought Kyle Wright back up. He's been phenomenal this year. They've been able to do that. The Mets don't have that. And that's the difference to me. That's the difference in these teams. And I got to tell you, I really identify with the philosophy of the Braves, the way they go about things, raising up the youth and treating them like they're the future, because they are, as opposed to me just going out and getting random players and sticking them together. That's what the Padres do. Look how that's turned out. They have no chemistry in San Diego. And I'm not knocking the Padres. I'm just saying I would prefer to be the team that handles money responsibly, number one. Number two, raises up my own prospects and then decides what I do with them. The Braves have been able to do that. They've been very successful doing it. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to be here for another 8 minutes, so make sure if you got a question, make sure to super chat it. Please do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. It really does help me out, and it does really help the channel out. I really do appreciate it. Let's see. Cheese says, bringing up Harris and then later Grissom was huge sparks to keep the winning going. Yeah, a lot of credit goes to the front office there, because they decided, look, I know these kids are in Double-A, but they're hitting the ball, which is something that, the back leg of our starting lineup is not doing. And they brought them up. They have been great ever since. So credit to the front office, credit to Vaughn Grissom, credit to Michael Harris. It's been a fun thing to watch. And, it reminds everybody, I think, of the baby Braves, Jeff Francoeur and Brian McCann, who we recently saw on Bally Sports. So that's been fun to watch. But it's been fun to see the early careers of these guys. Because, hopefully they're going to have long and fun careers to watch in the future. But they have been substantial parts of this team. They have not been, getting a hit here or there. Here's the thing. The Braves know when they have a gem, right? They know what prospect is good. I wish I could tell you that. Anytime I'm doing these live streams, I'll go a little longer. I know I'm going to elaborate here. Anytime I'm doing these live streams, right? Anytime I'm doing them, literally every time early this season, hey, tell me about Michael Harris. Tell me about Vaughn Grissom. Tell me about any prospect you can think of. Everybody does it. I understand it. A lot of excitement in the Braves farm system. I completely understand it. The problem is I am located in a little town called Columbus, Georgia. The Mississippi Braves, the Double-A Braves, are located in Mississippi. I don't have eyes on these guys. I wish I did. I can't watch their games every day. I wish I could. I promise I would. I can't do that. So I don't know what tools these guys have. All I can really see, honestly, is a stat sheet. And it's pretty blanket because, look, what's the difference between one 250 hitter in Double-A versus another 250 hitter? One may have a couple more homers or whatever, but you can't tell what a guy's going to be based on a stat sheet in the minors. You don't know. It's all about the eye test. And the Braves know. Dana Brown, head of scouting, phenomenal job these past few years. I remember the draft where they drafted Spencer Strider. We talked about him on this channel. Bryce Elder was drafted in that same draft. We have talked about all those guys being drafted up. And you know what? They have been very good about bringing up that young talent and actually using it. And Cole Phillips, I interviewed him earlier this year. You can check it out on the channel. Draft pick from this year. He spoke about the fact that, hey, I'm in high school. I'm looking at a guy like Michael Harris, who's 21 years old, already in the majors, already performing. Looking at a guy like Spencer Strider, who was drafted out of college a year and a half ago. He's already pitching. right, for the Major League Braves, and is an ace for the Major League Braves, a very good pitcher for him. And I'm like, well, that's encouraging as opposed to me spending 5 or 6 years in the minors being held down by another team, right? That's the difference in the Braves. They're able to use that players. They're able to promote, hey, look, if you're good, we're going to play you. If you can contribute to the team, we are going to play you. We are contending right now. That's something a lot of other teams don't do. But the fact that the Braves were able to see that in Double-A and realize these two guys could really help us. And, of course, they were at different times, but those two guys specifically in the lineup, of course, Spencer Strider in the rotation, but those two guys, to be able to see them and go, yep, that's the guy we need, and we need him right now. Phenomenal job by the Braves. Can't say it enough. Let's see. Oh, me. A lot of you guys being active. I see we have a Mets fan in the chat. He says, and I quote, the Braves caught the Mets, question mark, y'all are in second. Yes, technically we are. That is only because you played a doubleheader last night. Half a game back, we'll take it. But the Braves can only win the games that they play in. Unfortunately, you guys seem to lose more in September than we do. But we'll see you later this month. Thanks for tuning in regardless. I do appreciate it. Let's see. Sam Potts, does Soroka have a spot on playoff roster? It's kind of getting down to the wire. I initially thought yes, to tell you the truth, but I'm looking at it now, and look, I'm a Soroka supporter, as you can probably tell by this video. I want this guy to be great. I really do. I've been keeping up with him as best I can. The thing about it that I'm looking at now is it's getting a little late. You know, he's currently in AAA. I'm going to look up his game log so we have a better idea before I go, talking about it. But I'm looking at it now. I'm like, look, if it doesn't happen, well before the, if he doesn't, make his major league debut in 2022 well before postseason, I really start to question it. And it's not even really a knock on the guy. It's more so just, I don't know how you can expect him to come back from a 2-year gap and perform in the postseason at the highest level. I just think that's a lot to ask for. But look, we want Mike Soroka to be good. We want him to be back on the Braves sooner rather than later. Obviously we went to Rome and found him, pitching in his first game back. I took the trip. I wanted to see the guy pitch. So far in 2022, he's 0-1. He's got a 3.38 ERA. This is in across all of minor league. But, 4 games started and 16 innings pitched, 16 strikeouts. So take that for what you will, but that's really all we can tell. I can go to a little bit more in depth with you maybe later on, but I'm looking at it right now and I'm going, well, we really don't know. I don't want to tell you that, yeah, Soroka's definitely coming back because that'd be irresponsible on my part. But what I can tell you is, if he is ready, they will use him in some form or fashion. Whether it's as a starter or not, they will use him in some form or fashion. I just don't fully believe yet that he will be ready, is kind of where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Jordan Fate, do you see after the season Atlanta signing Aaron Judge to play left field? No. And I just don't. I don't think I don't think they're going to pay Aaron Judge what he wants to be paid. Even though they're expecting their payroll to increase, I just don't think so. I personally just don't think that that's what they're going to go do. Now they could. I mean, look, I've been wrong before. I just don't think that's really where they're going to want to go. I think they're really going to want to focus on pitching. They've always focused on pitching. And I think if they go get a bat, I think they're going to go get someone who's a little bit more affordable, because that's usually the way the Braves go. But look, I could be wrong. We will see. A lot of excitement about, the offseason coming up, but right now we need to focus on, the future postseason, what the Braves can do this year. Matthew says, thank you for the consistent Bravos coverage. Appreciate you, Tyler. I appreciate you, Matthew. I appreciate all you guys that tuned in tonight, all you guys that super chatted. It really does help the channel, and it really does support me, and I really do appreciate that. All I can ask for is your support. Going to skip that down a little bit. Let me see. A lot of you guys being active tonight. We're going to have to wrap it up. Here in a minute. Let me see. Let's go down to Jake Hobby. He tunes in. He says, sorry, you're in a conversation that I'm not involved in. Let's see. Ken Thal says, Braves have to play a major league team this coming series. Let's see how they do. Yeah, I agree with you. The problem is the Mets have been playing, this is a Mets fan, I'm pretty sure, by the way. you know, the Mets are losing games against teams they should beat, and the Braves aren't. And I mean, it's a fact. They're not right now. And, you know, it just is what it is. One Hand Gamer says, do you think the Braves will sign DeGrom? You know, I've talked about this on the channel a lot, and it's because of one story that got out, you know, and I'm really not buying into it. A lot of people are, but I don't know that that's where the Braves are going to go. For that to happen, a lot has to go into it, right? DeGrom would have to opt out of his contract, so that's one step. The Braves would have to then attract him to Atlanta, number two. They'd have to pay him, you know, market value more than likely. So it's just a lot of steps. I don't think it's likely. I don't think the Braves are going to go after something that high profile. And to be honest with you, I kind of hope they don't. And this is no knock on Mets fans out there. I don't trust DeGrom. And it not in his ability. He's got great ability. But he's hurt a lot. I mean, look at this year. You know, he's hurt a lot. And if we're going to be a contending team, we're going to rely on this guy. I need him to be available. And that goes with anybody. So personally, look, you might think I'm stupid, but if I'm going to pay a guy, you know, a huge deal, you know, let's just say even Scherzer's deal, you know, $43 million a year for $4 million. If I'm going to pay him that, I need him to be in the ballpark throwing on the mound every fifth day. And I just don't know that we're going to see that in DeGrom, you know, in the future. Hopefully we do. The Battery says, back in the day, I avoided watching Glavine in the first inning. Afterwards, I enjoyed tuning in and watching him pitch. Yeah, he would, like, dissect them. I mean, he would, like, literally pick them apart and say, okay, you're doing this? Well, I'll throw this. Glavine was a different breed. Get a different breed. But, look, I mean, that whole pitching staff was back then. Guys, I'm going to have to wrap it up. I hate to do it. I really got to run out the door here in just a minute. If you have something last minute, super chat it right now and I'll answer it, but I'm really going to have to cut it off. As much as I really wish I could stay and answer questions, I got to go. My friends are texting me off the hook, so I really got to go. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. I really, really do. Thank you. Of course, if you're a Mets fan, I appreciate you too. I really do. All love here from Braves on Deck. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck, and of course with, you know, anything going on in baseball, of course Braves baseball, and of course the postseason coming up. With that, guys, we are going to wrap it up. So I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in, all of you guys for super chatting. Please do me a favor and share this video. Get it out there. I've enjoyed this hour that I spent with you. Hopefully we'll enjoy the series coming up with Seattle and, of course, the Giants following, and eventually, the series with the Mets to tail off the end of the season. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you next time right here at On Deck.
Hi, I'm Brian Jordan, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
So I got a call that said, this is Susan Bailey. And I said, yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't know a Susan Bailey. She goes, I'm Henry Aaron's secretary. And I went, yeah. She goes, Henry would like to talk to you. I said, yeah, okay. And he said, how would you like to fly down to Sarasota and look at our pictures? And I said, I would love to. He said, well, when can you do it? Jokingly, I said, tomorrow. He goes, okay, we'll take care of that. I'll meet you at the airport in Atlanta. Susan will have the arrangements. And then I get on a plane with Hank Aaron and fly down to Sarasota. He offers me a job, and I said, well, what team do you want me to manage? He goes, no, he wants you to be a pitching coach.
Hi, this is Phil Necro. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Most guys throw it this way, the ball back in here, hands come around, and these two fingers come into the ball, and stiff wristed, no follow throw, and just little up and goes in the bat and hope there's no rotation on. The ball comes in there and doesn't bother. It doesn't never do the same thing twice.
This is Kyle Wright, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
One of my favorite moments for your career as of right now is actually this past week. It was a show of confidence by Brian Snicker. He left you in the game after bases were loaded. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I went back and I saw that clip on Instagram several times. I'll be honest, I went back and I watched it numerous times. Kind of gave me chills a little bit. It was just really cool. I was kind of lost my command a little bit there. Still made some good pitches, but was definitely getting a little tired. So whenever he said, basically left me in the game, I felt like that kind of gave me what I needed to get me over the hump to make a good pitch, get a ground ball back to me, and get out of that inning.
This is Matt Olson. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond. Yeah, it's a pretty cool experience. Not everybody gets this opportunity to kind of set up their roots and be somewhere long term that they grew up and have family and friends. So it happened pretty quick there in spring training, and it was just an opportunity that my wife and I and my family thought that we couldn't pass up. So just jumped on it, and it's been a blast.
Says, Chief, why don't you race Ralph Garr? I said, okay. Said, Ralph Garr wants to race you too. So we started on the first base line on the outfield line. We started, bam, took off running. I beat him by 3 foot.
Mike Never's here. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
I'm Kelsey Wingert, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hey, this is Andrew Jones. You're watching On Deck with Tyler.